Welcome. We're now going to be installing GAM7 on Ubuntu Linux. Some of the American people out there are going to say Linux, and some of the British people who've been influenced by the Americans are going to say Linux. And I'm here to tell you it's Linux. It's Linux like these two people. This is Linus and this is Linus. One of the two most famous Linuses people in the world. And if you put an X on the end, Linux, not Linux. It just doesn't make sense. But it reminds me a little bit, and this might be a controversial opinion, even more controversial than Linux and Linux. If you look at the American, which is, I'm going to pretend how to say it, buoy, whatever. That's the floating thing in the ocean, okay? That's a floating thing. And you kind of go, no. British and South Africans all going screaming into the heavens going, no, it's buoy. It's because it's shortened version of buoyant. That's how it works. But I just wanted to do this little sidestep to say we're right and some of you are wrong. Now, if any of you are actually still here, let's now get to install GAM7 on Ubuntu Linux. So if we go into here and we type in GAM7, we go into the wiki, and we go to how to install GAM7. If you've gone through the Mac and Windows versions, this might be a little bit boring for you, but I'm here and I'm willing to make it fun. So let's try and make it fun. Okay, so downloads and installs, you can go through there, but we can also go through the Linux, Mac OS, and Google Cloud Shell here. So if we go here, we've got these things over here. So it says here, we're going to be installing this, and we're making sure the Google SysAdmin is shown as admin@domain.com. So to make this easier, I'm going to open up a brand new document here. And on the brand new document, this is where we're going to start playing with code. So it says here, we are going to be installing this on users GAM and .gam. Now, we're not going to be doing that on this because this is where my current thing is here. So if I go pwd in my terminal and I see that I am in home Paul-Auger. So that is where I'm actually going to be installing mine. And unless your name is Paul-Auger too, yours will probably be different. Okay, so let's get started and let's try and get this. This example assumes that GAM7 has been installed in this folder. If you installed in another folder, please make sure you substitute those values. So if we go into this and we go to downloads and installs, and we go here to bash and to this one, we are going to copy this one and it's going to install this into the home folder /bin. And we've got this bash curl, and this is going to bring down the install file from this particular install. Now, if you need other things, you need to change your path and you need to change whatever, like your latest versions, you need to use those other commands. So we're going to do this, push enter, and it says the command curl is not found. Now, this is a brand new install of Linux, and on this install, we might not have done curl yet. So depending on what your allegiances are in Linux, to snap or apt or whatever, we are going to install curl quickly. So I'm just going to do this one. Put in my password. And now we have got that installed. So if we push up arrow here, and we run the same command again, it says curl is already the newest version, and that is good. So now what we need to do is we need to actually run this command. As you can see, it's going out to the GitHub, to the repos under GAM team, under GAM latest release. It's going to calculate the download URL. It's going to make sure which Linux distribution we are on, and then go into that. It's now going to do all of this. It's going to delete contents of that and extract the archive to that. So that's what we were talking about before. It's now also added the GAM alias to the profile file of that. Now, depending on which terminal you're actually running in, we might need to do it a little bit differently. So, perfect. So now that that's actually come here, it's extracted the GAM archive. So now it's gone in here and says that the GAM archive is actually, the GAM alias is put into the profile file over here, the bashrc. So if we open up a new window here, And if I need to find out what terminal I'm actually running here, because depending on what your proficiency is with Linux, it might be a different terminal. So if we go echo, and I can't ever remember if it's $0. Oh, it is. Okay, so $0 gives you bash. If you are on a different terminal, if you've added a different terminal to your Linux, then make sure that you are running the correct bash. Now, if we go ls over here, you can see that these are currently all the folders that we've currently got in here. But if we do ls, which is a list command, -a, and give here, it will show me all the hidden ones. So there's dot files here, which are bash history and bash logout and config and local and a whole bunch of other things. So depends on what you want to do. You might want to sort of like show the hidden ones sometimes. So we're now going to create the directory. Now over here, it has a long, I'm going to say difficult, complicated line of code. But basically what you're looking at is if you are currently in your directory. So once again, if I do pwd here, we are currently in my personal home directory. So I want to create a gam config file. So if I just say mkdir and I then say gam, I'm going to try and keep the capitalization the same, config like this, it is just going to make, if I go ls here, it's just going to make the gam config over there. You don't have to do anything special, but if you are in that, then you can do that. If you're in a different location on your hard drive and you want to do it with location tags or path drives like that, you can. But I'm just trying to make this as simple as possible for everyone. Okay. So we're now going to look at this. So it says here, make the directory, add the following line to one of these files based in your shell. Now earlier, we looked at the shell and we said echo $0 and we said that I'm in bash. Okay. So I've got these different ones over here, and we are going to add this particular line export into that shell. And the reason why we're doing that, it's kind of like in Windows, there is a variable. It's basically going to say this gam config directory, which is this one over here, is going to be pointing to this config directory. So no matter where you are on the hard drive, no matter where you're running the file from, if it needs to look at the gam config directory, it knows where to find it. So that's why we're putting that in. And depending on where you're running the terminal from, if you've got different terminals, each of the terminals that you're running need to have this line of code in. So now we need to edit the actual bashrc. We've known that it's got it in here because on this other terminal, it says you had added the game alias to the profile file in bashrc. So if you open up a bashrc file and it's not there, something's probably gone wrong. Okay, so let's actually look at this now. So we are going to say Nano, and that's going to be what you can edit it with. If you want to edit it with Vim or whatever you want to edit it with, it's absolutely fine. I'm comfortable with Nano, and I'm not going to be looked down by anyone because I am 6'6", so it's difficult for people to look down on me. Anyway, so yes, Nano. Then this little tilde over here, which is on your right-hand side, left-hand side of your keyboard, basically says, go back to the home folder. Okay, so if we were in a different location, if we were a couple of folders down, and we said that little thing, it says, look at your home folder, then we're looking at the home folder, /, and then bashrc is actually the location, well, the hidden file that we've got. So if I now push enter on that, you can see you've got a whole bunch of things inside here. And in this whole bunch of things, we all basically need to edit stuff. Okay, so we need to go down here. And if you scroll down, you can see there's a whole lot of stuff in here in terms of colors and everything. And normally right at the bottom, here it is, alias gam, and the particular thing that was added over here, which is the gam alias to the profile file. Okay, so that is there. Now we need to add this. Copy that. Paste that in there. And this is going to be the export. So this is gam. So when you're running gam, it sort of like knows where it actually can find the gam. I'm going to say executable, but it's the application file for gam. And over here, we've got export gam folder, and we've got that. Now, to get out of Nano, at the bottom here, it's got that little upward arrow, which is a caret. And we can do Control X. Do you want to save? And you say Y, the letter Y, not why do you want to save? And then we say, what do you want to save it as? We're going to say enter, and that should be that. So now that has now updated that following line. We're now going to issue the following commands, replacing the file name with the name of the file that you selected. Okay, so source and file name. So if we now say source, once again, we're going to do tilde / dot bashrc. That should now reload the bash terminal to make sure that you've got this latest thing. Okay. Now we want to actually see whether or not this GAM configuration directory actually exists, and we can test it like this. So now this is a -L, right? Not a -L, a -L. So if we say ls-l and we say that variable folder, which we had before, which is over here, GAM config directory. If we now push enter, it says it can't access that. Okay. And the reason why I can't access that is because if you look over there, it says users admin GAM config. So all those of you shouting at your screen already, that's because I didn't edit it. Going here. Control X. Y, enter, pushing source on that, so it reloads it, and now doing the ls of this, and it says cannot access no file or directory. And once you've finished screaming and calming down, you look at this more carefully and you go, okay, why can't it find users Paul Auger GAM config? And that's because this is actually a Mac command rather than a Linux command. So if I go back into this again and I say Linux, the Nano, I want to do this and go all the way down to the bottom, and I say export. Instead of users, you can see the one above there, it's got the alias. We actually need to type this as home. Control X, Y, enter. Then reload this with the source, and then run this again, and it says there's nothing in there. And let's do -L, and it says total of 0. So what that's basically saying is there's a folder there, we know about it, but there's nothing inside the folder. So if we go and say ls, and we go cd gam, and we say ls inside there, you can see there's absolutely nothing inside there, which is what we expect. So cd space dash dot, and we're back to where we were, so we're back to that. So let's now carry on. So we've done all of this, we found out that the GAM config directory is there, and now we're going to do a working directory. So once again, instead of running all of this fancy stuff, all we're going to do is we're going to take this GAM work folder, and we're going to put that in there. So I'm going to say mkdir, and we're going to say make the GAM work folder for me. Push enter. And if we now list that again, we now see that there's the GAM config folder over there and the GAM work folder over there. Brilliant. So we're now going to set an alias. Now this alias is what we've just spoken about in that stuff up that we had earlier. That alias is already inside the various shells in the bashrc. Okay, issue the following command and reload that. So we've done that a couple of times, so that is fine. Okay, so now symlinks are really more of an advanced one, and that's if you are using an alias, that's one thing, and if you are using this in scripts, you might need to do a symlink. So if you are doing a script with this, you may need to do that, but we're going to skip ahead. Now, we're going to initialize GAM. This should be the first GAM7 command executed. So if we go over here again, and we copy this, once again, GAM config drive directory users admin. Okay, so we need to make sure that is going to be home admin. Okay, GAM work and verify. So let's do that. Enter. And what that's actually done is it's actually created files and folders inside that directory. So normally we go through the terminal. I'm actually just going to open up the browser here. And if you go into GAM config, you'll see there's a GAM config file here and GAM cache. Now, you can actually open this with a text editor, and you can see all of those things that were just made over here are put inside here. Right at the end, we're actually going to play with this. We're going to play with this and actually make sure that you can make it even more customizable for you. But let's not go too far ahead. Okay, so that's all that. Now it says, check if this command gives you anything other than 0 now. And now it says it's a total of 8, and it says that there's stuff inside here. Once again, if you want to run this again and you say -1, it will just list out the 2 files that have been created inside there, 2 files and folders. Okay, so now we're going to create the project with your local browser. Okay, and you can see over here, there's the ability to create this project. Now, if we go over this to our other terminal, this part over here is where we actually stopped. And this is now going to be able to run this, and we won't have to go through all the other things manually. So let's go here. Do you want to run this as can you run a full browser on this machine? I'm going to say yes. If you say no for Linux, that's fine. If you SSH into this machine. And the joke I made about Mac and SSHing is that you shouldn't talk about it. Shh. It's bad. I'm sorry. But anyway, we're going to say Y on this one. Okay. Now, GAM is now installed. Are you ready to set up a Google API project? So that is what we're talking about here. If you ran that command, GAM create project, it would do exactly the same over here. So we're going to say yes. Please enter your Google Workspace admin email address. So my admin email address is this. Enter. And now it says a couple of things. Okay. It says here at the top, in the gam.gam folder that's now been created, there is a gam.gam cache folder that's also been created. Inside there's a gam.config that's been created, and inside here the gam config. In the gam config, there's a defined thing called OAuth2.txt, and that's not found. And in here again, there's OAuth2service.json, and that's also not found. So what we're actually going to be doing now is when we're running this wizard command stuff, it's actually going to make it for us. So please go to this. Now, depending on how you have your Linux set up, sometimes you can actually just click. Brilliant. So it's going to go to this particular address, which is that address at the top there. Click on Configure New App, enter the following client ID, and search for that app. So once again, right-click, say Copy, Configure New App, right-click, say Paste, search. This is GAM project creation, so we're going to say Connect. We can do this for all OUs rather than specific ones. If you want to do it for specific OUs, you can obviously click on here and say, I won't just do it for the school or whatever your OU structure is. I'm just going to say for everyone. And I'm going to say it's trusted. If you don't know why I'm doing this, it's saying the same thing here. Search, default is everything, push continue, trusted, confirm, and this is parental consent, and then enter if the terminal once is complete. So I'm saying trusted, continue, and then I'm going to say finish. And because this is a school tenant, it's going to ask me for all my users under the age of 18, are you sure we want to do this? I'm going to say confirm. And you'll see this new GAM project creation has been added. If we go back here, we're going to push enter in the terminal, and it's going to open up here. It says, do you want GAM project creation to edit, edit, configure, and delete your Google Cloud data? We're going to say allow. Going back here, it says the authentication flow has completed. And now it's going to create a project called GAM project. And it looks at all the APIs. There's going to be 38 APIs it's going to look at over here, and it's going to enable those 38 APIs. Now, we're going to sort of like get authorization for these APIs just now. Some of these we might need, some of them we might not. So if you're not a reseller, for instance, you won't use that API for resellers. And it really depends on what you are doing for your company. Now, it says here, please go to this. Okay, we're going to go to this one and create a client. So once again, we can say open link. What I'm going to do is actually put this to the left-hand side. put my terminal to the right, just so it's easier to actually follow along. Okay, so we've gone to this particular link, and if create clients is on the screen, skip to step 14, otherwise get started. So we're going to say get started. Under the app name, we are going to say GAM7 Linux. Okay, so user support email. I'm going to just use my normal one. I'm going to say next. What type of audience is this? This is going to be an internal audience. Obviously, we don't want other people to be able to log onto our GAM instance. And we're going to say next. Make sure there's no spaces or anything. Push next. I agree. Continue. Create. Course has worked. You are down over here. So we have done the I agree, continue and create. So we're actually on episode on step 13, which is click clients. And that's what we're saying here. If you've got create clients, skip to step 14. Okay. So if you are here, that's where you would be starting. So we're going to go to clients and we're going to say create a client. We're going to choose a desktop app for the application type. We're going to call it the same thing, GAM7 Linux, create. Now we're going to make sure these are copied. Please make sure that you copy yours, because in June 2025, which is after June 2025 right now, you will no longer be able to view these. So if you push OK, it goes away, and then you'd have to recreate this client. So let's go into here, push that one, and then the client secret is that. Push OK. It now over here would like the client code first. So I'm going to copy that. Pushing enter. Client secret. Pushing enter. And now it says this. Okay. It is important to mark the GAM client ID as trusted in your workspace instance. So this client that we've just made, we actually now need to trust ourselves. And if you've been in ITO long enough, you know that the last person you actually trust is yourself. How deep is that? Eh? It's pretty deep, I know. So we're going to click on this again, so which we had before. So we're going to say open that link. We're going to say configure new app, and we're going to search for this. And this client's ID is actually the one that we've just created. So we're going to search for ourselves. Okay, GAM7 Linux. There we go. The whole of the company or school. It's going to be trusted. That's why I said you're going to trust yourself. And finally push finish. And I confirm that I understand that I'm vowing for this for all the 18-year-olds and belows. Okay. Then we're going to do all of this. It says all of this, and we can now push enter. So now it's saying we've got this project, GAM project W97SW, SY. So if we go back here, and you see this GAM project here, you will see the one that we're working on. There we go. W98SY is the same one that we've got over there. So I've obviously made this a couple of times because this is one of the things I teach. So you would ignore half of those. Okay. So it says here, all of this is good. All of this is good. It says that's it. Your GAM project is now created and ready to use. Proceed to the authentication step. So now, earlier it said that we didn't actually have that OAuth and the verification done. So now we actually have to authorize it locally. So now, are you ready? And we're going to say yes. Now, when I spoke about what APIs we actually give ourselves access to, this is what I was talking about. So depending on what you're actually looking for, these ones that don't have a star aren't enabled, and these ones that do have a star will be enabled. Okay. Then you might have stuff over here like an R that's only read only. Normally, for most of our clients, the default is fine. So if it is fine for you, you can actually just push C if you need to obviously select, read these instructions, and select which ones you need. Okay, it says go to this following link, and this following link is actually opened up for us. I'm going to say continue. And all of these ones that we've now put a little star next to will come up over here and says this is what you're actually giving GAM7 Linux access to. I'm going to say, yes, I understand that, allow. And now if we go back here, you see it's going through all of these different APIs and says the authentication flow is completed. Client OAuth2 file has been made. So if we went again into then here, if we now want to see the hidden files, because it says here it's in .gam, If you drop this little doodah down, and you see here it says show hidden files, or you can push Control H. And here you will see that there is .gam, and underneath there is the OAuth 2 file that we were talking about, and the OAuth 2 service.json file. So we're going to say, that is great. So are you ready to authorize this? And you're going to say yes. Okay. Please enter the email address of a regular Google Workspace user. Now, if you are in your admin and you go to the users here, there's a couple of ways of filtering. Obviously, you might know that Michael Scott is just a regular person. And if you go into Michael Scott, you can see what kind of admin roles he's got. And if he's got any weird admin roles, then don't use him. See, he's got no admin roles here. There's also, just so that you know, if you want to look, you can look over here and you can say, I would like to look at admin role, just the super admins. Okay. And this will tell you who the super admins are. So anyone that's not a super admin or doesn't have a delegated admin will be fine. So I'm going to do Michael here because I can spell it. Michael at tamingGsuite.com. Pushing enter. Now what it's going to do is it's going to say, if we're acting on Michael's behalf, okay, we're acting on Michael's behalf, can we actually do the things that we want to do? Can we update Michael's details? Can we update his surname, for instance? And it's going through this, and I'm just going to make this bigger because it shows you a bit better what you'll see on your side. You'll say, this API is failing. This API is failing. And that's absolutely perfect. For the first run, we're going to say that's great, and they're all failing. And then once we know that they've all failed, we now are going to start giving permission so that we can actually play with these other people, play with the normal people in your company. Because admin people, just updating admin people is pretty useless. Unless your entire company is admin people, please never do that. Okay, so all of these are failing. What is saying is at the bottom here is saying these three are passing. And it's basically saying these are deprecated scopes and they should never have access to these. Okay, it says that we now need to update this authorization. So we're going to do the scan. And we say open link. And it says this client's ID, which is the one that we've just set up, is going to have access to all of these API scopes. We're going to say authorize. Yes, we understand that there's people under 18. Okay. And now you can go back here and says, are you ready to authorize GAM? One more time. And we're going to say yes. And now it's going to check one more time to actually see if we can actually update these users. And theoretically, it should pass. If it doesn't pass for you, just do it again and just make sure it actually works this time. It might take 30 seconds to do it. I've done this hundreds of times, as you can see from all the different projects I've got, and it never takes more than a second or two to actually get this authorized. Brilliant. So every single one of them is now passed. It now says those are still passing, which they don't have access to, good. And the client's name, which is that, is now fully authorized. The service client authorization is complete. And here's the information about your new GAM installation. So it tells you everything about it. I'm on GAM 7.19, which is, as of right now, it's the latest version. It's made by GAM. It's on Python 3.1.3.7. We're on Plucky Puffin. If I say that a little bit naughtily, I will get banned from this platform. The path that it's actually in is there. Config file is there. The current time is there. Your system time differs from admin, Google APIs by less than 1 second, which is great, and everything else is good. So you can either close your terminal and open it again, or if you don't feel like doing that, we can reload this. Okay, we alias GAM, and when that runs, that means that that has now reloaded in the terminal, and we can actually test what happens. So let's go back here and say GAM info domain. You've set up everything correctly. It should come back and say, this is your primary domain. This is when your domain was created, or your tenant was created. What's your organization name? What's your admin secondary emails account? And how many users do you currently have? Now, you might say that that's where we're going to finish. And you might. If you want to leave now, go for it. But one more thing. If we go all the way back here, and we've done all of this, and you can scroll and you can go through all of this and you can see what we've actually done. All of that's great. But right at the bottom, this. and it's talking about certain things. So it says, if you want to, you can update your GAM config file with basic values. So your customer ID, your domain, what time zone you've got. And when you do that, this means that you won't have to do extra API calls. So if you want to make it faster, put in your customer ID. If you want to put your domain in, that means that if you're updating Michael at Taming G Suite, you won't have to type update Michael at Taming G Suite. You can now say update Michael, which is just the first part of it, because it now knows the second part of it. If you're doing this for multiple clients, if you're a reseller or an MSP or whatever it is, and you're doing this for multiple clients, then you might not want to do this. Okay. But there's other ways to do that, and look further in the lessons to see what you can do there. So let's go and actually update this now. I'm going to say Nano. And we're going to be editing the GAM config. And what you saw before is that the GAM config here is under paulauger.gam GAM config. So we can do this, that. So it says starts at the beginning. So that would be starting from that /. So it's .gam and then gam.config. And this is the thing that we saw that was created earlier. So if we go into this, we can see that we've got over here, customer ID and my customer. So that's what also update domain, which is over here. Make sure that you keep it within the apostrophes. If you do have any questions, please put them in the Q&A section. If you're much for joining us, see you in the next lesson.